Sometimes, the scariest thing isn't what hides in the dark, but what stands in plain sight, wearing your face. A man who took your name, a stranger who lived in the closet, a badge with no meaning, and eyes that never blinked. These aren't ghost stories. These are moments when reality slipped and something else stepped in. My name is Alex Mendoza. I served 5 years in the Army. This story happened in the fall of 2014, just after I got out. During a road trip I took with 2 buddies I'd served with, Sean and Lucas. We were headed from Fort Polk, Louisiana, up to Indianapolis for a veterans event. Lucas had scored a free cabin rental through a friend. It wasn't fancy, but it gave us a destination, and after everything we'd been through, we just wanted to unwind, catch up, and be civilians for a while. We took my truck, an old black F-150 with a Marine decal and half a bumper sticker that said Semper Fi. The route took us along Highway 31 through Mississippi and into Tennessee flat land, pine forests, gas stations that still used manual pumps. We were about 90 miles outside Jackson when it happened. It was dusk. The sun had just dipped behind the trees, and I remember the sky being that deep orange blue that only lasts for 10 minutes. We'd just passed an empty way station when a black SUV pulled in behind us. No lights, no honk, just suddenly there. At first, we thought it was just someone tailgating. Then the lights came on blue and red. We pulled over. The SUV stopped about 30 feet back. One guy got out. He was in a uniform, but it wasn't quite right. No badge, just a patch that looked like a sheriff's star stitched onto a blank jacket. He didn't carry himself like a cop. No radio on his shoulder, no flashlight. Lucas leaned over and whispered, "Something's off." Sean said, "Lock the doors." The man approached slowly, one hand behind his back. He knocked on my window. I rolled it down 2 inches. "Evening," he said. "License and registration." His voice was flat. No accent, no inflection, like someone practicing. I asked what the stop was for. He didn't answer, just repeated the demand. Behind him, 2 more figures got out of the SUV. One stood behind the passenger door. The other paced along the shoulder. I didn't like it. "None of us did," I said. "We're former military, just heading north. What department are you with?" His eyes flicked to the Marine decal. Then he stepped back. Didn't say a word, just walked back to his vehicle. The others followed. The SUV sat there a few seconds, then turned off its lights, reversed, and pulled away into the dark. We didn't move for a minute. All of us were gripping something knife, multi-tool, whatever we could reach. When we finally got back on the road, no one spoke for a while. Later that night, in a motel just outside Nashville, we tried to laugh it off. Maybe it was legit. Maybe the guy was just bad at his job. But deep down, we knew. A week later, Lucas sent me a news clip. A couple had been found dead in their car off Highway 31. Same stretch we'd driven, same day. Their vehicle was burned out, no plates. One detail caught my attention. Witnesses reported seeing a black SUV at the scene. I called a friend from my unit who transferred to the Tennessee Highway Patrol. I didn't tell him everything, just asked if they had any unmarked black SUVs in use around that area. He said no. When I described the man's uniform, he said, "That doesn't sound like us, and if they didn't ID themselves clearly, that's a red flag." I filed a report, but nothing came of it. No follow-up, no phone call. Lucas still brings it up sometimes. He's got a theory they weren't cops. They were posing, looking for the right kind of victim. Maybe they saw the decal. The way we looked. The way we didn't flinch. And they backed off. I don't know what their plan was, but I know this. That night on Highway 31, we weren't being protected. We were being hunted, and we just didn't fit the profile. My name is Caleb Rios. I grew up in Arizona but moved to Oregon in 2015 for work. By 2017, I'd been driving long-haul routes across the West Coast for almost 2 years solo most of the time. It suited me. The quiet, the long stretches of road, the sense of being in control. But that changed the night someone took everything from me. Not just my wallet, not just my phone. They took my name. It started outside of Barstow, California. I'd pulled off at a rest area just after midnight. I remember the heat still radiating from the pavement, even though the sun had been gone for hours. I parked near the far end, where the trucks usually go. There were only a few some RVs, a couple of semis idling. I stepped out, stretched, locked the cab, and walked toward the vending machines. That's when I heard gravel crunch behind me. I turned, and there was a guy, maybe mid-30s, ball cap, gray hoodie, jeans, dusty work boots. Looked like any other road-weary traveler. "Hey," he said, "sorry to bug you. You headed toward Flagstaff?" I told him no, I was heading north. He smiled. "Ah, well, worth a shot." He turned to leave, then stopped. "Actually, you mind if I borrow your phone real quick? Mine's dead." I hesitated. Something in his tone was rehearsed. Before I could answer, he stepped closer and pulled a knife. He didn't shout, didn't threaten, just held it low, angled, practiced. "Wallet, keys, phone," he said. I handed them over. He took everything and walked off casually, as if he'd just wrapped up a friendly conversation. I sprinted back to my truck, but it was locked. My spare was in the glove box. By the time I got help, called highway patrol from another driver's cab, was long gone. I thought it would end there. But 3 weeks later, a letter arrived at my old address in Tucson. A hospital bill, addressed to me. But I hadn't been to Idaho. Then a call from a bank I'd never used about a credit card application. Then a notice about an apartment lease in Reno. Someone was using my identity. I filed reports. Credit freeze, new license, the usual steps. But it didn't stop. The guy had everything, my info, my birthday, my license number. Enough to walk into a clinic or a cell phone store and be me. I hired a private investigatora guy named Marcus who specialized in identity theft. He started digging. Turns out, I wasn't the first. This guy, whoever he was, had done it before. Same MO, late night encounter, mostly targeting truckers, travelers, guys alone on the road. He'd use their name, open accounts, rack up debt, vanish. Marcus traced a string of aliases, all tied to one description: ball cap, gray hoodie, dusty boots. In 2019, a break. A man using my name was arrested in Utah for a DUI. He got released before the prints came back. By the time they figured out he wasn't me, he was gone. But they had a mugshot. I stared at that picture for a long time. He looked like me. Not exactly, but enough that, with a hat and a mask, a clerk wouldn't question it. Same build, same hair, same eyes. Like someone had studied me, used me, tried to become me. The last trace came in 2020, a Craigslist ad in Boise. Someone selling tools under my name and number. Marcus traced the IP. It was posted from a library. Security footage was gone. But the librarian remembered something. She said he smiled a lot. Too much. Like he was practicing. I don't know where he is now. But every few months, something surfaces. A small charge on an old card. A voicemail from a pharmacy I've never used. It's like he's still out there. Living pieces of my life. And I keep wondering how much of me he took. And how much he left behind. My name is Drew Keller. I'm 28 now, but this happened when I was 20 during spring break, 2017. Back then, I was in college, in Nevada. I wasn't a party animal, but when a friend of a friend offered a chance to spend the week in a beachside condo in Morro Bay, California, I figured, why not? I needed the break. Midterms had fried my brain. There were 6 of us. Nick, who I barely knew, had the condo through his cousin. Then there was me, my roommate Josh, 2 girls from his psych class, Emily and Cassie, and this guy named Ray who tagged along through someone's brother. I didn't know Ray well. No one did, really. But he was quiet, polite, a little awkward. We got to the condo late Monday. A nice old-fashioned place near the cliffs. Spanish tiles, creaky stairs. One of those houses that smelled like sunscreen and old wood. The first few days were normal. Sun, drinks, music. We went to the beach, played Cards Against Humanity, took too many selfies. But by Wednesday night, something started to feel off. I was brushing my teeth in the hallway bathroom when I thought I saw movement in the mirror, just a flicker, like someone stepping quickly past the door. When I poked my head out, nobody was there. I chalked it up to wine, or the wind. But that night, when I went to bed on the living room couch, I couldn't sleep. I had this weird sensation that someone was awake, watching, but everyone else had turned in hours ago. The condo had a walk-in closet in the upstairs hallway. It was supposed to be used for linens, but it was deep enough to stand in. I remember passing it on the way to get a water bottle. The door was open just a few inches. I thought nothing of it. The next day, things got stranger. Emily said someone had gone through her purse. Her phone was out of battery and stuffed behind a couch cushion. Cassie lost a pair of earrings. Josh thought he'd left his room unlocked, but found it bolted shut when he came back from the boardwalk. Still, we laughed it off. Ray made some joke about a beach ghost. That night, I was half asleep on the couch again when I heard something upstairs. Not footsteps, just a shift. Like weight moving on old floorboards. I sat up, looked at the clock. 3:17 a.m. The hallway light upstairs was on. That was odd. I got up quietly and climbed the stairs. The hallway was empty. Doors closed. The only thing out of place was that same closet. The door was shut this time, but as I passed it, I swear I heard breathing. I leaned in, held my own breath, and listened. Definitely breathing. Shallow, controlled. I backed away slowly and returned to the couch. I didn't sleep. The next morning, I pulled Josh aside. "Man, something's weird about that closet," he laughed. "You watch too many horror movies." But later, when I mentioned it again, more seriously, he frowned. "Now that you say it, Emily told me she thought someone touched her shoulder last night, thought it was me, but I was downstairs. I decided to test something. I took a photo of the closet door. I wedged a piece of floss in the top corner, barely visible unless you were looking for it. If anyone opened it, it'd fall. That night, we went out to a bonfire party down on the beach. Ray stayed behind, said he was tired. Around 1 a.m., we came back, buzzed, sunburnt, laughing. Ray was asleep on the floor in the upstairs hallway. just curled up like a kid. Said he didn't feel well. I went to check the closet. The door was ajar, and the floss was gone. Inside, nothing seemed out of place, but something smelled off, like sweat and damp cloth. I mentioned it to Nick. He shrugged. Probably mold, old house. But something felt wrong, deeply wrong. So I stayed up again. This time, in the dark, pretending to sleep. At 3:12 a.m., I heard a soft creak, then the sound of footsteps, very slow, from the hallway above, then stairs. One by one, someone walked to the kitchen, opened the fridge, stood there for a long time. I stayed frozen on the couch, didn't even breathe. Eventually, whoever it was walked back upstairs. The next morning, I asked everyone who'd gotten up. No one had. Ray didn't answer, just looked at me and changed the subject. We were supposed to leave Saturday. Friday night, we decided to go out one last time. Everyone but Ray. Again, he said he wasn't feeling well. I stayed behind, and I watched. At 10:43 p.m., I saw movement upstairs. I crept to the hallway and saw the closet door swinging slowly inward. Ray stepped out. Except it wasn't really Ray. He was wearing Ray's hoodie, but his face, it wasn't right. It looked bloated, off, like someone trying to mimic a face from memory. He walked silently to Josh's room, tried the door, locked. Then Cassie's, locked. He turned, looked down the stairs right at me. I bolted, sprinted out the front door. Didn't stop until I was barefoot in the street. I called the police from a neighbor's porch. When they arrived, the man was gone, closet empty, window shattered. Ray's duffel bag was still in the hallway, but no ID, no phone, nothing. We never saw him again. And when we asked Nick's cousin about the rental, he said he'd never heard of anyone named Ray. No one by that name had been invited. We'd been sharing a house with a stranger who watched us sleep, a stranger who lived in the closet. Thank you for listening to TrueNight Voices. If any part of tonight's story stayed with you, let me know, or just leave a "I'll be here" listening with you